What's the most tragic thing you've seen in the emergency room? My dad called out from downstairs that I needed to get dressed quickly and we were going to the hospital. My sister Julie had been out riding her motorcycle in the countryside and had an accident. I hurriedly got dressed, my mind racing with questions. What kind of accident was it? Was Julie okay? Why did we have to rush to the hospital? I tried to convince myself it couldn't be too serious. Julie was an experienced rider and always wore her helmet and protective gear. Maybe she just had a broken arm or sprained ankle. We lived in a small rural town and the hospital was only 10 minutes away. The drive felt much longer as I sat anxiously in the backseat of my dad's old Ford pickup, staring out into the darkness. The summer evening was still warm, the air thick and humid. Crickets chirped loudly from the roadside fields. When we arrived at the hospital, the emergency room was eerily quiet. A nurse led us to a small private waiting room. The room was cold and sterile, with just a few worn chairs and outdated magazines. My parents asked about Julie's condition, but the nurse said only that she was in surgery now and the doctor would speak with us soon. My mom started to cry softly into a crumpled tissue. My dad paced the room, running his hands through his graying hair. I sat stunned in a hard plastic chair, realizing for the first time that Julie must be seriously injured. But how? What could have happened? Was she hit by a car that didn't see her motorcycle? Did she lose control on a dark country road? After what felt like hours, a surgeon appeared. His expression was grim as he explained that Julie had been driving down a winding road when a pickup truck crossed over into her lane. She swerved to avoid the truck but lost control and crashed into a ditch. She suffered major head trauma and internal injuries. They were doing everything they could in surgery, but her condition was critical. I listened in disbelief. My sister, just 1 year older than me and my closest friend, was fighting for her life mere steps away. How could this be happening? Just that morning we had eaten breakfast together, laughing over coffee and planning our next sister adventure. And now she was clinging to life on an operating table. The next hours blurred together. My brothers arrived, then aunts, uncles, close family friends. Our small waiting room overflowed with nervous energy and quiet prayer. People talked in hushed whispers or stared blankly at the walls. I retreated into myself, unable to fully grasp the severity of the situation. This had to be some awful nightmare. I would wake up soon with relief that it wasn't real. At some point a nurse brought us a plastic bag containing Julie's belongings, her ripped clothing, shoes, and her long blonde hair that they had shaved off for surgery. I took the bag numbly, opening it and catching the lingering scent of vomit. My sister's shorn hair, once so beautiful and vibrant, now felt heavy and lifeless in my hands. This was real. This was happening. Dawn was breaking as the surgeon finally came to tell us Julie was out of surgery. She had made it through the long night but was in a coma, her brain dangerously swollen. They had done all they could, for now her fate was in God's hands. My parents crumbled in each other's arms, their worst fears realized, but I still clung to fragile strands of hope. Julie was strong and healthy, a fighter. She could beat the odds. She had too. My sister remained in a coma for 11 agonizing days. We kept a constant vigil at her bedside, talking to her, praying over her, playing her favorite music. Watching her lie so still and silent was almost too much to bear. Each day that passed without improvement stole more of our hope. I remember the night before it happened. Everyone was either gone or sleeping in the next room, and I was there with Julie by myself. I wanted to make sure that she was comfortable knowing someone would be there for her every step of the way. I would often talk to her as if she was awake, as if she wasn't in a coma. I begged her to show any sign of being aware. Julie, I love you so much. Please, show you can hear me. Anything at all. I miss talking to you. Remember when we went to the amusement park and got cotton candy all over our faces? Remember when we made a pillow fort with our own movie room? Remember when I had nobody to dance with at our 6th grade dance, and you took me out to the center of the dance floor? By now, tears were falling down my face. Remember when we got ice cream on the last day before you went to college? I cried on that night when I couldn't be with you, Julie. I hated being away from you. You made me who I am today. Please. I don't want to lose you. My hands were wrapped around her lifeless body. My tears were falling on her pillow. But out of nowhere, she did the unthinkable. She moved. I jumped up. Julie? I waited. I waited for any sign of movement. Her eyes flickered. Julie. Julie, I can see that. Her fingers twitched. I couldn't believe it. I ran out of the room to tell the doctors and the family the news. She was waking up. I ran up and down the hall, cheering for my sister. Doctors and my family rushed into the room. But as I followed them, I heard an unfamiliar sound. Beeping. Repetitive beeping. It got faster and faster. Doctors were yelling. What was going on? Then the beeping turned into a constant sound. A sound that I wished to never hear. My sister was flatlining. The doctors tried everything. CPR didn't work. Medication didn't work. Defibrillators didn't work. My family and I were crying as we watched it all happen. The doctors looked like they were crying too. Call the time, they said, this poor woman. Julie, my best friend, the one I ate cotton candy with, the one I made a fort with, the one who had my back at the dance, the one who always loved her mint chip ice cream, my world, was gone. Julie was gone. But I knew what Julie would want me to do. That terrifying night at the hospital changed me forever. My youthful naivety was shattered. I saw how fragile life could be, how quickly everything could change in one reckless instant. I vowed to never take my loved ones for granted. And I promised myself I would do whatever I could to stop drunk driving, this preventable evil that devastates so many families. I spoke at schools about the dangers of drinking and driving. I shared Julie's story and warned students to make smart choices. I volunteered with Mothers Against Drunk Driving to spread awareness. And I made sure my own children understood the very real consequences of driving impaired. 2 decades later, drunk driving accidents are still far too common, taking sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers. We must do more. Please, never drive impaired. Stop friends or loved ones from getting behind the wheel drunk. Speak out in your community. Don't let another bright young life be cut short or forever altered. We all have the power to make a difference. My sister is one of the lucky ones. Others are not so fortunate. Please, don't drink and drive.